So to do a slip knot, it looks like a you'll make an X, you have a loop here, this is your working yarn, this is the tail, so you'll have the working yarn underneath the tail and you'll pull the working yarn through that loop so that when you pull your working yarn, it pulls it tighter and you can pull it apart. Basically, crocheting is making a bunch of knots that can be pulled apart. And when you make a mistake, they call it frogging because it sounds like you're ripping it apart, and so it sounds like ribbit. So they call it frogging it. So again, a slip knot, just like that. So working yarn over the tail, pull it through the loop, and then you have that. So I'm going to do just a starting chain and pull it loose. I'm going to work it loosely so y'all can see it. So I'll put my yarn over and just pull it through on the hook. Do a yarn over and pull it through that loop. A yarn over and pull it through. So now I have done 3 chains. 1, 2, and 3. I'll chain a couple more. 1, yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through. Everybody holds their hook differently. You can hold it like a pencil and do it. Yarn over and pull through, or hold it like a knife. And there are people that loop it in their fingers and loop their yarn so that they can hold it like this to keep their tension. It all depends on your mood and how you feel it's easiest to work for you.
Now the tension will determine how tight your chain is, right?
Correct. And as will the size of your hook. So this is an L, and I'm also using a 5 in weight yarn so that y'all can see the loops that I'm making. So it's a bulky weight in the yarn. I didn't want to use a smaller weight in the yarn so you can see it. So this is a bulkier weight so you can see what I was doing.
So if you're just starting out, you probably want to just do a chain and get your tension to look similar.
Yeah, so you can do a simple chain, and it actually looks like a braid in your hair. So, and then if you've made a mistake, the great thing about crocheting is you can just pull it out.
Wow, that's not always great if you mess up and pull too much.
Yeah, you don't want to pull too much. Or if you pull out your hook and you lose your stitch, that really sucks. Which is why they make stitch markers for you to be able to put in there. You can use,
we can show those,
a safety pin, you can use a hair tie, or even a loose piece of yarn and just tie a knot in it so you don't lose it. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll put it in here and I will just loop my yarn around it just so it'll hold the project to my yarn ball and it'll hold the stitch. And then you don't have to worry about losing your stitches. So you want to try to make sure that you're getting an even tension, and especially if you're just starting out, you want to practice.
Yeah, because it's not as easy as you're making it look.
No.
When you start off.
No, you want to practice, getting your tension right, and everybody's tension is going to be different, and the size hook is gonna make a difference. A smaller hook, So this will pull it a little bit tighter. Let's see. And you want to make sure you're grabbing all the strands of your yarn. See how it made it a little bit tighter? But you can also work it loose as well by just not pulling the yarn tight. It'll still, based on the size of your hook, still make a smaller chain. So the chain, the size of your hook does matter, because you can get a ginormous hook and work it. Yeah, this is a huge one. And it's going to make huge loops. Another way you can work your tension, especially if you're working with this size hook and you'll be working with, say, plarn. It doesn't look like it's doing anything, but when you pull it, you've got your braid. So the size hook does make a difference in your chain. And the chain is usually the base of a project in crochet.
So your chain, you need to make it as, like if I was making a scarf, I make the chain as long.
Sometimes depends if you want to make it as long as a scarf you're going to make, and you want to work it the length to the width, and sometimes people will work it width to the length. So depending on the project, you can work it that direction. There are other projects you can work that are circular. They'll have what's called a magic circle. That in itself is a different tutorial. And
that's
there's also
advanced.
That's a more advanced tutorial. There's also a tutorial we can do if you guys want. That's how to start without having a starter chain. So it'll give you like a half double crochet ahead. So it gives you an extra row. So it does that first row without having, because when you do the starter chain, it kind of gives it a little bit more tension at the beginning.
Okay. So we should pause the video and make a chain so we can learn the next step.
Yep, go ahead and pause the video now and chain 25, and we'll start, we'll do a single crochet next.
Okay.
I don't know if my chains curl because I roll my yarn into balls, or if it just does this naturally, but you can easily straighten it out by just running your fingers across it, and you'll get a straight chain. So I've got my chain. Just a forewarning, y'all, I cannot count, so this is definitely more than 25. So to do a single crochet from your starting point, we're going to skip this first chain. So skip that space. We're going to go in to that space right here.
So you're counting the little wavy bubbles at the top.
Okay. We're going to go yarn over, pull it through, yarn over again, and pull it through those two. And that is a single crochet.
Okay.
So we'll go back in.
You're just going to the next little bubble.
Go into this next little chain space right here. Working from the original chain is usually the hardest because you have to find the chains. If you're working on black or you're working with a thinner yarn, it's really difficult. A trick that I have learned is to use a headlamp. You may look silly, but you've got a light that you can focus on specifically for your project, and you're not shining everybody else. So you pull that through, yarn over, pull through those loops right there.
And that's another reason to not crochet tightly.
Yes.
Like I do, so that you can find
your loops.
Find your loops a little easier.
And again, that's another reason why some of the crochet hooks have a more pointed tip and some don't. So yarn, you're going to go through that chain, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, pull it through those two. And what it's doing is it's creating that same little braid look on the top there. And so you have 3 single crochets right there. So this is your second row. So we're going to go into that chain 1, that chain, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, pull it through those 2 loops.
Does it matter which way you wrap your yarn, or like if you wrap it this way versus that way?
Oh, to go this way?
Yeah. Like, does that matter at all?
Sometimes, because it can make it look like you're... We'll try. I'll show you what happens. It makes the stitch look different. Oops. See, gotta get all of the... It puts the stitch on the other side, so it looks a little different.
So whichever way you do it, just be consistent.
Yeah, try to be consistent. And see, you can pull it out. Just pick up that loop. If you don't like the way it looks, stick it back into that chain space. Yarn over and pull through. Another really, really easy stitch is the slip stitch, and this is how you can join things, and this is probably the one I should have shown you first. You stick your hook in, you yarn over, and you pull it through both of these, and that's the slip stitch.
And what do you do that? What do you do that for?
You can use that to join things, or even it makes a shorter stitch length, so it doesn't make it makes a shorter row, but it'll give you a similar look. So we use that chain.
So do you can you slip stitch the whole thing?
You could. It'll just make a very short row. So I can do a couple more so we can look at the difference in the rows. The height.
So it's going to take a whole lot more to get the same.
It will, and it turns the braid. See, I kind of tilted it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can kind of see it slope down.
Yeah, because it brings it this direction. I mean, there's all different ways that people, if you are reading the directions of a project, which we can do other videos on that.
That's a whole nother monster.
Of reading a crochet pattern. Wait, that's a double. Sorry. We're not there yet. That'll be in just a moment. So we're going to pause this video while y'all do single crochets all the way across, and then we'll do double crochet next. So you've got to the end of your row, and we're going to turn our project. That's going to be what you see in a lot of your directions if you're working from a pattern. And you'll see that it looks just like your chain did on the top, like little braids of hair. So you'll chain 2, because we're going to do a double crochet. So you'll chain 2 again, and that'll count as your first double crochet on this row.
So if I was just going to keep doing single to make a full single blanket, would I still do the 2?
You would single crochet, do a single chain 1, and then you would skip that first single crochet.
See, this is where I get mixed up, and then my blankets turn out triangles.
Pizza slices.
Yes. Okay, so you double crochet.
So you've chained these two. And then you skip this one here because you've made this chain 2 here. So that counts as that you've done it already on top of that.
Okay.
So we're going to do a double crochet. So you'll do a yarn over, and you're going to go into these 2 loops here.
2 loops, not just the one.
Not just the one. Because the chain is what we were using to hold that was the starting chain. So you'll go into the 2. If you do 1, let me finish this stitch first. So yarn over, and you'll pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. So now you've done a double crochet.
And that's a taller stitch
than the single,
which gives you like a bigger hole, right? Like
a bigger post. That's what they call it. This right here is they call it a post, because on some patterns they'll say wrap it around the post. So if you were working, say, the next row and the pattern said work on the post below, you might have to wrap something around this post.
Okay, that's confusing.
Right now it is confusing.
So the difference between a 1 crochet and a 2 crochet is just the height.
The height and the amount of times you wrap. Do a yarn over.
Okay.
So
double crochet, yarn over first.
Yep, yarn over, and you'll go through those 2 right there. Pull that 1 over. So now you have those 3 loops, whereas before we did the yarn over and you had 2. So do yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2 more. So you have, again, it's the same height as that other one. And I'll do a single crochet right beside it so you guys can see the height difference. So if you were working a single crochet on the same row, because this counts as row 1, that starter chain just counts as a starter chain because that gives you somewhere to begin. So this single crochet row is row 1. So I'll do a single crochet here so you can see the difference. So this is a double crochet and that's the single crochet. And you can see the 2 extra loop here, and there's only the 1. So there's a little bit of height difference.
Okay. So if you want to get real fancy, you could do a double and then a single and then a double and a single.
Yeah,
or 2 doubles and a single, or to make different patterns of
right, and it
stitches.
Yep. Everybody, I mean, that can be just a basic pattern across, and if you did a double and a single just across, that's actually got a specific name. They do name the patterns of just how you do the stitches across. If you do a double and a single across, it's called a lemon peel. I can show you guys an example of what that looks like in my whip, a work in progress. This is a lemon peel, what it looks like.
That's a double and then a single, a double and a single.
And then the next row you work a double and a single, but it's on top, the single is on top of the double, and the double is on top of the single, so it's worked opposite.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty.
And this is a cake. It's not a single color of yarn. So we're gonna again do a yarn over, go through those 2 loops, yarn over again, and pull through. So we'll have 3 loops here, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. The easiest way to remember a double is pulling through 2 twice. Yarn over, going to go through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So you're doing 2 loops, 2 loops.